The recent Supreme Court rulings on concealed carry laws in New York State is going to bring big changes to everyday life in New York City. Big changes. The New York law against carrying concealed guns has been on the books for over 100 years, and they have always been the most restrictive laws in the United States. Up until now, police officers had a complete monopoly on carrying concealed guns in the 5 boroughs. Now the entire population of New York City is going to have to adjust to the fact that anybody around you can legally be carrying a gun. And I stress the word legally because criminals have always carried guns in New York. The 2 biggest adjustments are going to be made by the police department, which is going to have to accept the fact that everyday people have guns, and the criminals are going to go through a very painful adjustment period, which I call the purge. Career criminals have always enjoyed the fact that while they were committing a crime, that there was a 99% chance that the ordinary citizen would not have a gun. This story is from the New York Post. Computer, please read the article on the Supreme Court gun ruling.
New York Post. Supreme Court overturns New York law on carrying concealed weapons. June 23, 2022. The Supreme Court has struck down New York's century-old law restricting the carrying of concealed firearms. Its first major Second Amendment decision in more than a decade, and a ruling that could lead to more guns on the streets, writing for the 6-3 majority. Justice Clarence Thomas said Thursday that the law's requirement of New Yorkers who want a permit to carry a handgun in public to show proper cause that the weapon is specifically needed for self-defense violates the 14th Amendment by preventing law-abiding citizens with ordinary self-defense needs from exercising their right to keep and bear arms in public. Though the decision concerns New York law, it is likely to affect a handful of other states with similar permitting regimes, including California, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Rhode Island. In a separate opinion concurring with Thomas, Justice Brett Kavanaugh and Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that Thursday's ruling does not preclude state and local restrictions on gun ownership by felons and the mentally ill, or laws banning the carrying of firearms in sensitive locations like schools and government buildings. Properly interpreted, the Second Amendment allows a variety of gun regulations, wrote Roberts and Kavanaugh, who also noted that states can still make applicants for a firearm license undergo fingerprinting, a background check, a mental health records check, and training in firearms handling and in laws regarding the use of force, among other possible requirements.
Stop. Rest assured, just like every other bureaucracy in New York City, the authorities are going to make this as unpleasant and as complicated as possible for residents to get gun permits. Even with this new ruling, New York City is going to make the requirements as restrictive as possible. Anytime friends, colleagues, or clients come to New York City, they often ask me what is the safest way to get around, and I always tell them Uber. And the reason why is because Uber drivers, unlike other parts of the United States, every single Uber driver in New York City has to be licensed by the Taxi and Limousine Commission. In order to obtain that license, you have to go through classes that you have to pay for. You have to take a test. You must undergo fingerprinting, a background check, a medical examination, and a drug test. If your Uber driver even thinks about doing anything remotely objectionable or unreasonable or even illegal, they are the easiest group of people in New York City to track down and prosecute. This application process is going to create an entire cottage industry around licensing. Everything from guns, ammunition, and holsters to firearms classes, training, application processors, shooting ranges within the city. That's going to be a lucrative business. If you have a shooting range within the 5 boroughs, you're going to be swamped with members. Something to think about. Continue.
Mayor Eric Adams emphasized at a news conference with NYPD Commissioner Keechant Sewell that nothing changes today as a result of the ruling, noting that the decision was remanded to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals to reconsider its earlier decision upholding the state law. If you have a premise permit, it does not automatically convert to a carry permit, Sewell warned. If you carry a gun illegally in New York City, you will be arrested. Nothing changes today, and that's important for everyone to be aware of. The New York State Rifle and Pistol Association and 2 upstate men had challenged the Sullivan Act, on the books since 1913, claiming it violated their Second Amendment rights. Paul Clement, the lawyer representing the association, told the justices during oral arguments last November that his clients are seeking nothing more than their fellow citizens in 43 other states already enjoy. Carrying a firearm outside the home is a fundamental constitutional right. It is not some extraordinary action that requires an extraordinary demonstration of need, he said at the time. Thomas agreed, writing, "Nothing in the Second Amendment's text draws a home versus public distinction with respect to the right to keep and bear arms." The justice also wrote that the Second Amendment guarantees an individual right to possess and carry weapons in case of confrontation, and confrontation can surely take place outside the home. City and state officials have expressed fear that striking down the law would lead to more people carrying weapons in public, even as gun violence has surged amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Governor Kathy Hochul described the court's decision Thursday as not just reckless, but reprehensible and frightful in its scope. "The Supreme Court is setting us backwards in dealing with gun violence," Hochul told reporters during a Manhattan news conference. In a separate statement, Adams said the ruling will put New Yorkers at further risk of gun violence. "We have been preparing for this decision and will continue to do everything possible to work with our federal, state, and local partners to protect our city," Adams went on. "Those efforts will include a comprehensive review of our approach to defining sensitive locations where carrying a gun is banned, and reviewing our application process to ensure that only those who are fully qualified can obtain a carry license. We cannot allow New York to become the Wild West."
Stop. Computer, how many shootings has New York City had since the pandemic started in 2020?
In the year 2020, the NYPD investigated 1,531 shooting incidents and 319 murders. In the year 2021, the NYPD investigated 1,562 shooting incidents and 485 murders.
Well, someone informed Mayor Eric Adams that when your city has over 1,500 shootings a year for the past 2 years, not only are you already the Wild Wild West, you have surpassed the Wild Wild West. In fact, you have become like the HBO series Westworld at that point. This article is much longer, but I am going to stop there. You get the main idea. New York and 5 other states now have to change their restrictive gun laws. New York City in particular is so densely populated, this is going to have major societal effects. Culturally, legally, people normally just don't think. If you're dealing with another regular citizen, we're not talking about criminals, we're not talking about street people, we're not talking about high crime areas. If you're dealing with an average citizen, it's a 99% chance they do not have a firearm. That all is going to change. It's going to change the way you do everything. And let me just say that in the first few years, there's going to be a purge. After people mentally become adjusted to the fact that anybody can have a gun, it's going to be very interesting how this plays out. And they have something called the law of unintended consequences. I don't know exactly what the city is going to look like in 5 years, but they say the only constant in life is change. And this is going to change many things. Just be prepared for it. If you would like to continue to see videos like these, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. Until next time.